Scholar and award-winning author Ibram X. Kendi is bringing classic stories from an acclaimed American writer to young readers. Kendi is adapting 6 stories from Zora Neale Hurston, best known for her 1937 novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God. His first adaptation is a children's book titled Magnolia Flower. The story follows a young girl who is Black and Native American looking for love and freedom. Ibram X. Kendi joins me now. He's the founding director of the Boston University Center for Anti-Racist Research, also a CBS News racial justice contributor. This story is about a young girl who, you have a daughter yourself. We were just talking about that, and you said that this is really inspired by her. Can you tell us more?
Well, I've just long admired the writings of Zora Neale Hurston. I've long admired, she collected a bunch of folklore, particularly from rural Black Southerners. And I've always wanted my daughter to read those stories. I felt like I had to wait, and now I'm excited because she doesn't really have to wait anymore.
I love it. Why is it so important for children to be exposed to these stories and conversations?
Well, first, I think when it comes to folklore in particular, whether Black folklore or the folklore of other groups, there's so much wisdom, there's so much beauty, there's so much joy, there's so much learning, and even there's so much history. And so for me to expose my daughter, to expose other children to folklore, to American folklore, is a great thing.
I love it. What message do you have for people who are watching right now, and they don't know really how to talk about race or teach race to their children, or even parents who maybe try to push back? What's the message?
Well, I think particularly for those who don't know how to teach race, I would encourage them to grab a book. And what actually happens, as we know with our kids, they're going to ask questions, right? And
yes.
So you'll be able to get a sense of what they're thinking, what they want to know, what they want to understand. And that's one of the things I'm excited about Magnolia Flower, because there are elements of history that I'm sure kids are going to ask us about. And if we don't know, we can go to the library with them and figure it out with them.
Sometimes conversations are difficult, but you know what? The most impactful things come from difficult conversations, and we shouldn't be afraid of these things. In all of the books that you've written, 11 books we were talking about before, what surprised you most?
I think that really I did not really know that there would be such an appetite for these books. I mean, even, the more that I think about even the adaptations that we're doing on Zora's stories, the more that I'm just blown away about, I wish I had these books when I was a child. I didn't really learn about Zora Neale Hurston until I was in college, right? And for all the classic American writers, we should be learning about them when we're children.
And you're helping us to do that now, which
Exactly.
is wonderful. I want to switch a little bit over to another story that we've been covering. I've been here all weekend, and apart from racial injustice, many communities in the U.S. are experiencing right now environmental injustice. We're talking about Jackson, Mississippi. How can we make meaningful progress in this area?
Well, I think we have to invest and ensure we're investing in all communities. We should not have a situation where communities, particularly that are disproportionately Black and disproportionately impoverished, feel as if they've long been underinvested in terms of their water infrastructure. And so to me, this is about making investments in communities and people, ensure that we're providing the most amount of resources to those who have the greatest amounts of need. And certainly people in Jackson, Mississippi have a tremendous amount of need to have something as simple as clean water.
I want to make our viewers at home knowledgeable about the difference between being not racist and being anti-racist. Can you explain that in layman's terms for people who may not get it?
Well, in studying the history of people being racist, what we experience and see today isn't actually that different as to what's happened in history. In other words, people commonly say that I'm not racist when they say and do something that actually most people would consider to be racist. But to be anti-racist is first to acknowledge those times in which we make a mistake, in which we even being racist, but more importantly, to recognize the racial groups as equals, to seek to undermine and eliminate racial disparities and injustice and create equity and justice for all.
And say what needs to be said.
Yes. I mean, how can we solve anything if we're not open and honest about it?
Exactly. Just have a conversation. I am so happy that you're here. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see this book.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.